What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for rocking with us today. Welcome to our latest OnPoint review. I am Doodle, and I'm here with the always spicy CMoney.
Hello, hello. Let's go. I am pumped and ready.
Yes. Today we are reviewing Pacific Drive. The key was provided to us by the publisher, Kepler Interactive, and Keymailer. Pacific Drive was developed by Ironwood Studios. So before we break it all down, CMoney, why don't you give us your overall view on Pacific Drive?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, overall, I'm very impressed with the game. I had a really great time playing it. There's a lot of things that really make the game for me. There's a lot of things that really um, you know, raises it above what I was expecting coming into it. Obviously, we'll go into that in a little bit, and then there's also some things that they kind of were little nuisances or things that kind of took me out of it a little bit. And again, we'll definitely cover that in a bit, but let's
Absolutely.
get to it.
I know how much you love beautiful graphics. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the graphics and the environment?
Yeah, so that's I would say that would be the biggest thing for me was how beautiful this game is. Um, I mean, they really, really did a phenomenal job when it comes to the environments, the landscapes. They're just beautiful. Walking through there if you're out of the vehicle or just driving through the world, you have some amazing, amazing graphic display in front of you. I love the weather effects. The weather effects are just so crazy, like so crazy. It honestly, they feel like they're. It feels like it's almost real. Like you look on a screen, you see the rain effects and the weather effects when the wind is blowing and the trees are just moving everywhere. Leaves are blowing everywhere. Rain is just gushing through. Top notch, honestly. Like at the caliber of the big boys. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it really feels like they're punching way above their weight here with what they did with um, the graphics. Obviously, we're playing on Steam, on PC, and we have everything maxed out, and it's a sight to behold. Honestly, it's stunning, 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 100%. Obviously, like as far as like you go into like really up close situations where you walk up to like if you try to like stare at the floor when you're walking around, or you get up to things really close, the texture work is not great. I don't think quite nailed like how detailed a texture would be in like maybe like a real AAA game. But again, from further away when you're not sitting there scrutinizing, oh my god, stunning, stunning. I honestly, that was part of what made me want to keep going every time and redoing it, because they nail it. And then once you layer on like the effects that they have with like the lightning, or and just like the supernatural effects that they have in the world, oh man, it really is so well done. Kudos to them. Kudos to
Yes,
them for sure.
absolutely. I didn't have the opportunity to play it, but I did watch you play the game, and it is stunning. There's a lot of depth to the game. You are correct, that weather. There is something very special when you can give you like natural nature reaction in a game, and you can get chills from watching the rain, or you can see it in the video. The particles are getting picked up by the wind, and to kind of feel like you're in the middle of that type of storm and get a fulfill reaction to it, and a feeling like you
For
are
sure.
for sure in that weather, in that moment. That is something special. You are
Agreed.
correct. The It's almost like the dimension of it is kind of like a painting that you kind of see the top layer for when you are walking around and you are really like looking at the little details like on the floor and stuff like that. It kind of lacks the density in there, but overall it is stunning when you do see it, like, from the car, and even when you're standing there, you see it, like, they made a perfect top, but it lacks the texture to, like, overlayer.
Yeah, yeah, it's just if you're scrutinizing, then you're not gonna be, too happy with some of the texture work, right? But
Yes.
outside of that, when you're just in the game and you're playing it like a normal person would sit there and play it and just enjoy it and take it for what it is, it really is phenomenal. I mean, even the lighting, I mean, this is nighttime scene that you see right now, but they use the fog, which is so well done. They use the little spotlights in certain, buildings that might be scattered around. They really do a great job. I'm really impressed with what they've done for sure.
Absolutely. I am too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the gameplay and the driving mechanics?
So I would say this is the thing that shocked me. I would say the most coming into this, where I really didn't know what to expect with it. I guess I just assumed that it was just going to be a normal driving game. You get in the car and then you drive, but it's very different. It's very a unique experience, and I do feel like as I played it more and got more accustomed to it and adjusted to it, it felt very rewarding. Like I felt like I was in control now. Like I knew what I was doing, and it
Yes.
became almost second nature to do all the little multitasking things that you need to do in this game. And I think that's the thing, right? Like the game itself, it doesn't hold your hand, right? Like it's very challenging. It's not only is it challenging, but I feel like it's challenging you to master the mechanics, right? Like it's kind of forcing you to either like start figuring out how to do it well, or you're never going to move forward, right? Because it's going to kick your ass every time. um so I definitely feel that they kind of hit the right balance there. Now, unlike other driving games, I think the biggest thing for me, or the biggest takeaway for me, is that like Pacific Drive, right, it makes you feel like you're controlling the car, not becoming the car.
Yes.
Right? So you getting into the car doesn't transform you into the car where you're just like, okay, left, right, and this is what it is. Like I'm still the person who was looking around constantly in the environment. Now I'm just in the car because now you have to go ahead and you have to pay attention, right? Like you have to take a look at everything. Like they really nailed the attention to detail inside the car as well. But when you go from you have to drive on the road, right? You're checking the map to make sure you're going the right way. You gotta monitor your vehicle's health. You got to make sure you got gas. You're checking everything and anything all at the same time, multitasking everything. Um, and it's just, I mean, it really adds to the immersion,
Yeah.
right? Like immersive, I would say, is maybe that key word, that takeaway from it. You feel immersed in driving, unlike any other game I played, um, which is, I mean, I feel like it says something because I do like playing driving games. But not only driving it, right? When you see the game, you can see how like the roads are so bumpy, right? Any bump, any crevice, everything, you feel it when you're driving, right? So it's not just get on the road and drive, but you're dodging things in the middle of the road. You're like there's like those electric fields and things like that you have to make sure you don't get hit by because it would mess up your vehicle and slow you down or stop you. Like there's so much you have to contend with at any given moment, that it's really, you're constantly, your head's on a swivel, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing, right? So you're playing and looking everywhere all at the same time. And in the beginning, it's really cumbersome, I would say, really difficult to kind of wrap your head around. But as slowly get better at doing it, get better at multitasking while you're driving, um, it really just it changes everything for you. So I felt very accomplished by the time I got to the end of it. And then when you layer on top of all that the graphics, the way we were talking about, and you
Yes.
get those, heavy fog moments where you can't see too much through, and all of a sudden something that's in the middle of the road just pops up in front of you. You're like, oh my God. Or when the storm is blowing like crazy and things are intense, or if you trigger a certain part where you're basically doing this mad dash to get out of the area and everything is going crazy around you and you're still having to look around, do everything all at the same time and still contend with like the visual aspect of it where you're getting all this visual information thrown at you and you're like, oh my God, like it's immersive and intense,
It
like
adds to
it
the
does.
panic and, that feeling of being caught up in that area, in that moment. The
Facts.
fact that it's able to suck you in that way, it's very telling to what they've done with this game.
Agree.
And you are absolutely correct. The reaction to the action when it comes to the car is like none other. Any little bump that you hit, the car reacts according. It's just so seamless and so well done. Kudos to them. And
Agree.
yes, like you said before, when you add that together with everything else, you do feel like you are in a moment where you need to survive, right? It just puts you in that situation, survival mode. If not, then if I don't figure this out, then it's over, right?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the story and the voice acting, how did you feel about that?
I would say the first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about the story and the voice acting is the voice acting itself. I feel like they did a very, very good job. I think there was no bad actor, right? Like everything sounded good, it sounded believable. I really enjoyed it. And as far as the story itself is concerned, I mean, this is not like some grand story, right? It serves its purpose, but it was intriguing, right? The way that the voice acting delivered the story to you and how it's kind of doled out to you, it really worked for me. I'm not gonna get into like spoily details or anything, but as far as the voice acting and story is concerned, um, yeah, I was up for it. I felt like it was engaging, and the voice acting it just brung the story to life. It's I guess it was enough to keep me hooked,
Yeah.
right? And like eager to uncover all the other, mysteries that the story might have. Um, yeah, it was enough to pull me along for sure.
Yes, and it was very funny at times. So
Yes,
you enjoyed it a lot. It had those
yes,
elements,
yes.
which it kind of needs, right, for such an intense game. So it's a nice balance to have in there. There is such a thing as at times you feel like the acting, the tone of the actor is very level. And so it doesn't keep your attention. But with Pacific Drive, the acting is so well done. You want to listen to what they're saying to you. You want to catch those jokes and be kind of like involved in that aspect of it. So I think that they did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, when it comes to, the acting, and delivering those lines. And the story, as you said, is just enough of a story to keep you going, without it being too heavy or too much, right? So the vehicle interaction, see money, and the upgrades. How was that for you? Was that tedious? Was that something you were looking forward to? How do you feel about that?
So this is the thing. You learn very quickly that the car here isn't just your mode of transportation, right? Like it's your companion, it's your buddy, right? Like
Yes.
it protects you, right, from the storm and the supernatural, right? It's your shield, it's your armor as you're driving around. Um, and that's something that I wasn't necessarily, you know, expecting, right? And the thing is and you got to maintain the car, right? You got to maintain it. You got to keep it going. You have to check the fuel. You got to fuel it up. You got to bring some fuel with you, right? You got to make sure that you're able to fuel up. There's gas stations in the world, so you can kind of come across them and fill up while you're out there. But you really have to take care of the car, and you feel it. Like if the car starts you know, losing pieces, or the tires are damaged. I mean, there's so many layers to it. It's frankly, it can be a bit overwhelming, like how much there is to it and balancing it all out. And materials are in the world. Like that's one of the big things when you are going through the game, you have to upgrade this car, right? Like you have to upgrade it. That's the most important thing, because the car gets beat up out in the world, and there's a lot of different um, things that happen in the world, whether it's electrical or some of the supernatural stuff that's flinging you around. Your car can get beat up really bad, and when you're at the moment where you need to, you trigger that moment where you need to get out of there, and it's a mad dash. So many times I've done that where I ran out of gas, because I didn't pack enough gas. I didn't make
Yes.
sure I had enough. I didn't keep my eye on it and know to fill up before I triggered that event, right? Or, I went in there and I had too much damage towards the end, right? And when you're trying to survive at the end and things are popping up and you're making this mad dash over there, and then all of a sudden, your car doesn't work right, or your wheel pops, or you're constantly fighting against it. I mean, it really adds to the game in a very meaningful way, to have, like, knowing that this is like your baby, you know what I'm saying? You gotta
Yes.
take care of it, you gotta treat it right, and you gotta do what's best for it, which is to upgrade it. Um, but I mean, they did a great job with it, man. I think they do. Now, obviously, you know, it's a little it can become tedious at some points, right? Especially in the beginning, I would say, like before
Your
you
device is charged and
unlock
ready.
all the
You'll
heavy
use it to
duty
open a gate at the back of the
material.
garage.
Um,
But it will immediately
Getting to
collapse the
that point
stability
can be
belt.
frustrating because
So
a
hold the
lot of
knife
it
steady when
does
you're
fail,
absolutely ready to leave.
rather
You do
quickly.
not want to get caught installing
There's
the
a
lock.
lot of stuff in this world that's trying to destroy you, or to fling
Yes.
you off a hill, or off a mountain or something, or to electrocute you or chop you in half. Oh my god, there's a lot of stuff in there that really wants to destroy you. So, while your car is early on very fragile, it can become tedious for sure.
Frustrating.
Yeah,
Yes.
frustrating is a good way of putting it, for sure.
There is such a beauty about a game when it can connect you to something seamlessly, right? You brought up
Hello,
being
Mr.
kind of like
Starlight.
frustrated,
Drive
especially
this
in the
way,
beginning,
sweetie.
and then this
Yes, the bus
car
line
kind of
object will be
becomes
so much
a
better than any
part of
dreadful
you,
manual
right? A part
driver.
of your survival, and you want to take care of it, and you want to do the things that you need to do, and come through for it essentially because it's coming through for you, and so it becomes such a big part of your story, especially when it's a car that you wouldn't, maybe so raggedy, you wouldn't necessarily like that wouldn't be the one that you will pick out, and it's kind of like you're stuck with this, and it's as you continue to do things for it, and the more attached you kind of get to it essentially, and it's like, okay, this is my freaking awesome car
Yeah,
as you
like, creates a bond.
continue.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
you almost like it creates a bond for between you and the car, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
And you know what? That is
Oh,
something
well,
that may be a
well.
lot easier to
You'll
do with like
survive.
a pet
Must
or
admit,
another
for someone who can
person,
get you
right?
that
But for
gateway
the
code.
for them to be able to give you that connection with a
Did I
car,
not mention that you're the first
that's
human I've
that's
sent
pretty
through that thing?
phenomenal.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
it
So
is.
been
It
the
is.
somehow I just completely
exploration and the
unmanageable.
survival in the game. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you feel about going out there, being on that journey and surviving?
So that's the thing. So in general, like, survival type games are not necessarily my bag. Unless there's a way that I can go through it a little easier or something like that. It's just because of time, right? Like, I don't have, for me personally, the desire to, you know, die, lose everything, have to start back from the beginning, right? So
Yes.
there are some settings in this game that allow you to kind of make it, as difficult as you would want it to be, or if you want to lighten it up a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
and about
and
those
by lightening it up
anomalies,
a little
I
bit
don't
doesn't mean that
recommend you spend much time
you
around them.
die less, or you have
Unless you want
worse
to
or
test the
less things
fish, in
happen to
which
you. It's just
case you'll
that
be my guest.
you don't
When we're
lose
all dead and
everything
gone,
that
new
you work so
technology
hard
put a
to get.
footprint
And
Yes.
that's
in
the thing, right? So
space.
in the beginning,
Anomalies
right,
go unmentioned.
exploration
They're
is,
the
you
legacy of
know,
our work here.
pretty pretty dope because you're going and I love that type of stuff, right? So you find like this little abandoned house and you're like, oh, let me go over there. And depending on what you have, the items that you have, you can break through a door or a lock that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And you can go in there and get material, right? Because like we were talking about with the upgrades, right? You need to the only way to upgrade is to go out into the world and to get material that's needed to do the upgrades, right? And they need a lot of material to
Yes.
do the upgrades, right? And that's really the thing, right? So as much as the upgrade system is so dope, you can get stronger panels, additional storage you can add more fuel capacity, right? All of that stuff requires more and more material. And in the beginning, again, when the world is not so hostile, right? It's a lot more of a, I would say, like a chill experience where you
Yes.
can kind of go here. Like the music is tense, everything is tense, but you're not in like super crazy danger every moment of the second. But then once you go further and the world gets crazier, it's kind of like that's where for me it became a little more difficult because it's like I didn't want to stop driving because the the world was gonna kick my ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's just you're so frantic. Like, look at the screen, right? I just flipped the car, right,
Yes.
at that moment. Um, like, the world is so frantic and it's always trying to kill you, and it's like, "Oh my god," like, I'm trying to get out of here. Like, I don't wanna stop to go
You want to
scavenge.
explore, but at the same time, you don't want to stop and take a risk of losing everything that you've worked for, right? And
Exactly.
so that's the balance. And I guess, as you mentioned, working so hard for something and then losing it, it's like such a big deal.
For
And
sure.
so that's why it's so important to have a lighter mode, even though the game doesn't necessarily
But even
get
with
that
the
light,
lighter
right?
mode, like, it's still messing with you, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's still a problem, and that's the thing, I would go around and I'd be like, "Okay, I wanna go scavenge," but then it's like, man, if I get a lot of stuff and I'm carrying all it with me, and then I get to the point where I'm gonna trigger that event that's gonna make me do that mad dash,
Yes.
and I don't make it, it's like, "Yo, that was a lot.
I can
That was a lot
understand
of
that
work
because
for
I
nothing."
feel the same way as you do, when it comes to that. Yes, it kind of keeps you from exploring more than you would because of the chance that you can go ahead and lose everything. And so, that panic, kind of drives you to react to, like, retrieve a little more rather than go ahead and be a little bit more open to this world.
Yeah.
You mentioned the music being tense. Did that in any way kind of like, drive you to get back in to like, did it stop you from exploring in any ways, like, of feeling that tension and saying, "Okay, I gotta get back"?
Um It definitely like, when things are going crazy, it amplifies it, like, it just makes you more intense, right? Like,
Yes.
it just makes you more nervous um, or afraid of messing up, right? Like, it
Mhm.
just amplifies everything. Um, but it's not like I say the best compliment I could give it is that I didn't really think about it too much. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? So, meaning it was never a problem. I know there's licensed music in there. Soundtrack is fine in that respect. Um, but as far as like how it amplified the situation when it was tense, that made a difference for me.
Okay.
Um, but otherwise, not so much. But again, when you are in this world and you're trying to get these upgrades and do everything that you need, um, it obviously for certain type of people, this is gonna hit different.
Of
Right?
course.
Because, like, there are a lot of people that love that,
Thrill.
that thrill of like, "Oh my god, if I die, I'm losing everything," right? And
Yes.
and that's a very real thing, right? That's the same thing with, like, the Dark Souls, or the Souls games, right? Like,
Absolutely.
people love, feeling that intensity, right? Where I don't really love that, but I would say that I don't look at this game and think they messed up, right? I feel like I think one of the harder parts for me specifically is when you some of these are like multi-stage situations. So when you leave the garage, you have to go through one place to get to the next place to get to the next place, and so forth and so on. So once that, you know, when that happens and I have to try to, you know, get through all the stages, and then if I fail the last stage, I'm back at the garage. Like, I get why
It's disheartening.
they do it.
Mhm.
I get why they do it. I wish there was another way where I could be like, maybe you get one chance to redo that one area you just went into after you did the other ones. And then if you fail that one, then kick you all the way back. Something that gives you a
Yes.
little bit of a chance.
Or maybe it allows you to manually save it as you kind of close a section if you want to play it in that way, right?
Well, that
Like
would be the
maybe
best
you can
version for
go
me.
ahead and if you want to play it with the thrill and the excitement that that brings to some people, you can go ahead and do the whole thing and if you get got, you start from the beginning, but if you don't like that, a great option would be to go ahead and be able to save through manually again so that it's something that you have to kind of be aware of.
So one of the things that when I look at this and I think about it, the only thing I do understand about them wanting to get you back to the beginning and not letting you save or not letting you redo. And the one thing I see with that is that if you are in a bad situation because you didn't do the right loadout or you didn't have the right stuff with you or you didn't have enough gas with you, then if you restart just at that checkpoint or just something like that, nothing's going to change,
No,
right? You're
you
not
will
going to
have to
get more
still
gas,
go
you're not going to
back.
get any of that
Yes.
stuff. You still got to go back, right? So that I can see. So I guess maybe our version of it trying to be easier is maybe a little difficult to implement because if you mess up, you might just be in a
In a loop.
a loop of
Yes.
messing up. You know what I'm saying? That's like when a game lets you like save the game right before a boss battle, but you have like no health,
Yes. And then you're
and it's
stuck
like,
in there.
how are you supposed to beat this boss battle because you didn't have any health, and that was the last time I saved. So I get it. I mean, I guess I wish they were. Listen, they're a lot more clever than we are, right? Maybe they could
Absolutely.
find a way to have made that happen. Um, uh, I don't think it's a huge negative or anything like that. It's just, I think that for people who are a little averse to this, like the survival type of game, that might be a little frustrating and might turn some people off when they try to do it a bunch of times and it doesn't, you can't get through it.
Exactly.
Um,
But
but yeah,
overall, it did keep you coming back again, those stunning graphics and wanting to explore
absolutely.
more. So that's a testament to what they were able to do and what they've delivered. So let's get to a conclusion, C Money. Where are we with Pacific Drive?
Absolutely. Yeah, so overall, yeah, I honestly I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with it. Um, I wasn't expecting the game that it is, and I am pleasantly surprised by it. Um, I really enjoyed the driving. I really enjoyed being in the world. The storytelling, the way they do it, it's all engaging. And honestly, I would like the graphics are a big deal to me. Like the walking in that world is beautiful. Being with the in the tense environments with the fog and the rain and all that, it just feels like really nothing else out there. And I loved it in that way. I think for me, overall, just the little niggling things of the difficulty of having to go all the way back. It's kind of pain in the ass. This the starting point where I feel like that first beginning area, it takes so long to kind of upgrade, your vehicle. Where once you like, there should be a time period where you're learning about it and adjusting to it, and that's great. But then after that, we should have, I don't know, maybe something to make it a little quicker progression to be
Yes.
able to upgrade your car. Um, I don't know if that's the answer to it, but I feel like something is there that just makes it a little draining in that respect, and sometimes a little a little tedious.
Yes.
Um, but again, that's all it is. It's a little tedious and a little dragging, right? It's still something that I wanted to go ahead and figure out how to upgrade things and say how is that going to fit in the car and take that and how did that make my playthrough better, right? So
Yes.
um
The
oh
tools, by the way, the tools are pretty amazing that
yes,
you get
tools,
to have
absolutely.
with you.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with it overall. Um, I really, really liked it. So as far as the official on point review score for the game, we're going to go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. I think the game's fantastic. I really, really loved it. And the little things that were you know, little nuisance here and there, or little detraction from the game, I don't think was enough to really knock it too much. And I really enjoyed it. So our official score from On Point is an 8 out of 10. Fantastic game. And with that, Doodle,
Yes.
we're gonna end this the way we end every single show. Doodle,
Yes.
we're done.
We are.
Until next time,
You're intruding.
you're intruding.